I've been in the gym lifting weights consistently for 8 full years. I went from being the nervous wreck in the gym who was scared to do any of the big movements for fear of looking dumb to being able to outlift all of my mates. However, I could have made those improvements in half the time, and you will if you avoid all the mistakes I made. By the end of this video, you're going to be very aware of your own mistakes you're making with food, your own mistakes you're making with the plans you're following, and your own mistakes you're making with the way you think. I shit you not, for the first 2 years of me going to the gym, I never, ever intentionally ate over 2,500 calories. I was so scared of eating over that amount because I thought it would make me fat. I was scared of becoming fat again more than anything in life. Now, part of that is because I came from an overweight background. I was an overweight child. I spent all of my childhood fantasizing about how I could just cut off my man boobs. I was the type of child that if I knew about Manjaro when I was 12, I would have asked for that for Christmas instead of an Xbox. But I'd already lost the weight before I got into the gym, and in quite an unhealthy fashion. And that made me terrified of the thought of feeling for my gym sessions. So after my first year of the gym where I did get stronger, and my second year of the gym, I made pretty much no progress because I just didn't eat enough. My second mistake was writing my own plans. I remember thinking to myself at the time, these are fantastic, these are amazing. I spent hours researching fitness YouTubers and bodybuilders and making sure it was all in the correct order and it was all the best exercise for each muscle group. As someone who now coaches people like who I used to be, so I work with people who used to struggle with their weight and want to get into the gym and get really strong. When I read my programs that I wrote for myself back now as someone who programs for a living, they are so fucking dumb, it's unbelievable. They might actually be some of the dumbest programs I've ever seen. To this day, I still don't write my own plans because I know if I write it, my ego is going to take over and I'm going to put in something dumb that I don't need to be doing. And if this is what you're doing, which is what most of us do in our first couple of years of the gym, I've attached 2 plans in the description below. The first one is if you've never really followed a plan before, you just wing it in the gym. This is the simplest thing that will get you to make 5 times more progress than if you're just winging it just now. And the second one is a bench press plan for those of you that think you're a more seasoned gym goer. This one will get you to PB on the bench press within 6 weeks, which I know a lot of you will get horny at the sound of. My next mistake is more of just a struggle. A struggle I didn't want to admit to anyone or myself. I always felt like when I was trying to get advice from people that were better than me in the gym or just find people to follow on social media, I just could never find anyone that I felt like understood me. It sounds a bit weird, but the best way to explain it is, you know the way when you walk into most gyms, there will be like Arnold Schwarzenegger on the wall, like basically naked, dripping in sweat, and there'll be a motivational quote next to him. I just don't understand any of that. I just look at that and go, that's cringe. I'm not very vain. I also don't want to see my veins. I don't want to be shredded. But despite all of this, I kept following bodybuilding advice because I couldn't find anything else. So from years 2 to 4, I think I probably made very little progress once again because I just kept following bodybuilding programs that I didn't enjoy. There was probably less intensity in my training than your typical egg and spoon race. But eventually, I found a program I fucking loved, and it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. So the program I found was called 5-3-1. They could have came up with something better than that. I think that's why it took me 4 years to find the thing. But up until this point, after 4 years of lifting, my bench press was stuck, my deadlift was stuck, and then I ran this 5-3-1 program for a full year. I didn't deviate at all. I tracked every single workout. I was in the gym 4 times every week. By the end of that program, my deadlift went from a really shaky 140 that I wouldn't even maybe count to being able to deadlift 200, and it was quite easy. My bench press went from me being stuck on 80 kilos to being able to bench press 100. This video was the first time I ever done 100, and watching it back, I could have definitely done a lot more, but I had no idea. But I didn't make that progress until years 4 and 5. I want to give myself some credit, right? Before those 8 years of going to the gym, I couldn't stick to a single thing. I'd be starting a new diet every single Monday, and I would keep weighing myself, whether it was every week or every day, and as soon as the weight didn't go down at the rate I wanted it to, I would just binge. Over those 8 years, of course, I've missed quite a lot of sessions, but I've never really went more than 7 or 10 days without going to the gym, and that's maybe only happened once or twice, and it's only happened because maybe I've been on holiday. In fact, most of the time when I've went on holiday, I've actually went to the gym and I've wanted to go to the gym. What I did do is I kept trying to learn. I kept trying to do different exercises, even if I didn't really have a fucking clue what I was doing. But if I could go back and tell myself just one thing really early on, it would be to try find people that have been in the position I've been in. People that want to get in the gym but feel out of place, have maybe got an overweight background, and aren't interested in bodybuilding, they're just interested in getting strong. It took me 5 years to lean into the fact, if you could get me to be able to lift more on the bench press and the deadlift, I didn't really need anything else. I also think it would have stopped me from continuously dieting, because bodybuilding actually reinforced that idea that I wasn't lean enough to get stronger. And every time I went through this process of getting as lean as I possibly could with a bodybuilder, because they convinced me that was what was going to help me get as strong as possible, it ruined me for months. So now it's your turn. It's your turn to stop making plans for yourself or completely winging it. It's your turn to stop listening to people you absolutely don't relate to on any level. And actually, this video up here would be very relevant for yourself. I've actually managed to keep the weight off for 10 years, and that was a lifelong struggle of mine. And if you come from a similar background to me, there's a lot you can take away from what I'd done to keep the weight off for 10 years.